And this brings us to a session which we've all been waiting for. I now invite Stuart Taylor, CEO, Kinetic Worldwide, United Kingdom, to come and give us the keynote address on new technologies, innovative, creative, and rapid expansion of DOOH fuels out-of-home growth, which will be followed by a one-on-one conversation with Mr. Pramod Bhandula, Executive Chairman, JC Decox Advertising India Private Limited. Prior to this, Stuart was CEO of Guardian Media Group Radio and sat on the board of parent group GMG PLC. He was also non-executive chair of GMG Property Services Group and sat on the board of Seven, a content marketing agency. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Stuart Taylor.
Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thanks so much for the invitation. I want to reflect on several things that actually some themes have been picked up already by some of the speakers today. But I don't know what to do with these. I've got a mic here. I left England, thank you so much. I left England yesterday and it was -2 degrees. There was snow on the ground. I come to Delhi, it's 33 degrees. I usually associate these temperatures with coming on holiday, but I don't normally give speeches when I'm on holiday. But it really is great to be here. And I'm going to refer to a lot of UK examples of digital out of home and what's happening. But I know that how rapidly things are developing in India, and it's usual that India will sort of catch up and overtake very, very quickly, particularly around mobile. So I think what you might see, some of the issues and the challenges that we are having, you're going to get to quite soon as well. I'm also fully aware that I'm the only person that stands between you and the awards, and more importantly, you and the bar. So I'll go through these slides as quickly as I can without sort of skipping what I really want to say. So I think you're all familiar with Kinetic. This is my marketing director's idea of a joke. I'm an Arsenal fan. This is a Tottenham Hotspur picture, work we did for our client Nike, but I had to let it go. We work across hundreds of agencies and clients, over 800 in the UK. We work with a wide variety of creative agencies, digital agencies, and clients like Coca-Cola, Tesco, and Unilever directly. Our mission really is to bring creativity, insight, and intelligence and technology to enable brands to connect with valuable audiences out and about on the move. So I'm sure you know what Kinetic does, but I thought I'd mention it. I think it's a time of huge transition. And I wanted really to just start by a quote from Charles Dickens, typical British author, a bit of history here. You know, this was well over 150 years ago. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was a season of darkness. And I think that really summarizes what's going on in out of home right now. There's so much going on. Most of it is positive, but it's slow going. But then when have we ever lived through an era that's not been characterized by unprecedented change, particularly in the last 10 years? Now, digital out of home is rising rapidly in the UK, but overall growth for the medium is slow. It's 1%, 2%, 3%. If I get 3% this year in the UK, I'm delighted. It needs to be more like 2%. But all the growth within that is coming from digital. In other words, the classic billboard, it not only is coming out of the ground, but the price is going down. So if you're not investing in digital, your business is probably going to shrink over the medium term. That's what's happening in the UK. Digital is taking more and more share. This 45% of the revenue is coming over 15% of the available opportunities. If you call each frame, whether it's classic or a screen, 15% of opportunity is generating 45% of the revenue. So it really is starting to disrupt the market, but without it, the market would be going backwards. Okay, we think digital is the opportunity as well as the challenge. It's mixed. The previous speaker talked about glass half full, glass half empty, and I think that's a really, really good metaphor for what's going on. Digital is no doubt the driving force for growth in our industry, but it's bringing much broader challenges as the digital landscape grows so quickly. and overcoming those challenges will be key to growing out-of-home market share. What do I mean by the digital challenge? As this chart demonstrates, this is the UK position over the last 10 years of media spend. Now over 50% of all media is spent on what we'd call pure digital media. This is unprecedented, but what it means is it's created a digital mindset amongst clients, amongst junior brand managers, amongst agencies. They think digital first. It's a mindset. It's a center of gravity pulling towards digital. That means platform-based, one-to-one, direct response, click, share, all of that. Now, we've got to make a case for how out-of-home fits into that digital market, because this isn't going away. Even though Facebook shares are dropping on the news of fake news and data breaches, forget it. They're going to grow. So's Google. So this is the major challenge. And out-of-home has to move towards digital to survive. Digital is changing everything. Even more complex targeting methodologies have emerged, along with these concerns over viewability, transparency, and brand safety. But much has been written on these subjects. A global issue, by the way, I'm sure you're familiar with it. And we think this is an opportunity for out-of-home, particularly digital out-of-home. I think clients are now questioning just how far they've invested or over-invested in pure digital media. You'll be familiar with this picture. It's straight off Google Images, but this is what happens in the programmatic world when we've estimated, or people have estimated, that over 60 pence in every pound is spent on the food chain between the client spending the money and the publisher actually getting the revenue onto the websites. Does that make sense? We call it a tech tax, and it's opaque, and it's costing clients money. And I think clients are now recognizing this. The complexity of the digital world is now working against it as opposed to for it. I'm not saying digital media does not have a place on a media schedule. Of course it does. But let's make sure it's the right place and not the whole thing. Look at what some of the clients are saying at the moment. Keith Weed sums this situation up perfectly. We are operating in a digital ecosystem that is murky at best and fraudulent at worst. His words, not mine. His counterpart at Procter & Gamble has said similar things. He's been very vocal about this issue. Speaking at a conference in London the other day, he reaffirmed Procter & Gamble's commitment to regaining control over their media spend and a determination to shine a light on opaque digital practices. And in the UK last week, this is a bit sort of esoteric, but we now have empirical data, independently verified, to support some of these concerns. These are aggregated scores across a new study showing the overall expectation of media channel performance compared to the findings of what actually happened with that media in market. And what you can see here is not really what happens to out-of-home or television, it's what happens to digital media. The overinflated expectations of the effectiveness of online video and social media to the detriment of all traditional channels, with the exception of television. Clearly, this has huge implications when it comes to where a brand invests its marketing budget. So there's a bit of uncertainty and there's a bit of disillusionment, but there's also opportunity, and that's really what I want to talk about today. We believe this is the time to seize the moment and really accelerate the growth in out-of-home. We believe this is out-of-home's time. The question is, how do we go about this? When I hear some of the issues brought up, they're the same issues actually in the UK and every other market we operate in. Germany, US, China, just to name a few. For us though, it starts with the enduring strengths and the unique strengths of out-of-home that have made it such a powerful channel for advertisers and will continue to make it such a powerful channel for advertisers for so long. I list here the 5 key strengths, regardless of each market that we're in, we believe are absolutely unarguable in demonstrating the power and the effectiveness of out-of-home. How you back these up within your own markets with data and particular examples is down to the information and the statistics and the data you have available. But I wanted to run through these to give a snapshot of how we do this in the UK, and let's take them one by one. Firstly, out-of-home generates mass reach and is unavoidable to the consumer. This demonstrates that we've taken data from Touchpoints, a huge survey in the UK, that for all adults, the opportunity to be exposed to out-of-home is greater for out-of-home than any other medium except television. Sorry, even television. This is also true, particularly for the younger, what we'd call the millennial audience, but also people in work, not the heavy TV viewers, which are staying at home, the unemployed, the elderly. Out-of-home generates huge reach. Unlike other forms of advertising, it cannot be blocked, it cannot be avoided, and it's not interruptive, and it doesn't cost your data on your smartphone contract. Out-of-home is impactful and influential on consumer behavior. It's no accident this is the oldest medium in the world. It's part of our environment, and it's been proven. I really commend to you this presentation, which I've blatantly stolen this from, by Tim Spencer. It's called Sunlight and Seduction, but it's the most impressive presentation about out-of-home I've ever seen. I've been in out-of-home 5 years, but this is the most impressive presentation I've ever seen. And it's about the state of mind that we're in when we're out-of-home. We are more receptive. We're alert. We don't want to be run over. We don't want to run into a lamppost. We are more alert. All our senses are tuned to receive things and be more alert. This is very, very important for the reception of out-of-home messages. Similarly, out-of-home is part of our cultural environment. It would be a very bleak environment indeed if there weren't familiar brands talking to you, communicating with you as you go around your daily business. It would look like sort of East Germany in the sort of 40s. It wouldn't be a very nice place to be. We feel reassured by seeing brands in our built environment. And by the way, those brands look even better on these beautiful new screens that are popping up everywhere. And also, out-of-home creates shared experiences that unite consumers around a particular location or interest. So we know about mindsets. People are in a certain mindset at airports, a certain mindset when they're commuting or commuting home. Also, of course, we love things that look big. There was a great campaign in the UK for the small Fiat car, the Cinquecento, the 500, tiny little car. They put it on the biggest banners and billboards they could find. Why? Because we love seeing something huge. It really is something only humans really feel. But that ubiquity of scale, trust, and credibility, we mustn't lose that when we come to selling out-of-home. Out-of-home harnesses the power of context and location like no other medium. As smartphones become increasingly pervasive, consumers are using them to explore and understand the world around them. We are seeing exponential growth in location-based services and searches, and out-of-home can be a powerful trigger for this. Excitingly, the data opportunities this opens up will allow us even more insight than before on the movement and the behaviors of audiences when they're out and about, ideal for those who wish to reach consumers on the move. Out-of-home directly drives an action or a response, especially with mobile. This is one of the game changers we feel for out-of-home moving forwards. Everyone has got a smartphone. Everyone is taking pictures. Everyone can search and go on to buy or research things that they see in the environment around them. And this is a very, very powerful argument as you justify the return on investment for out-of-home. The final one of our 5 unarguable truths is the one I wanted to dwell on this evening, because I truly believe that it's creativity and it's technology and the innovation around that will act as the engine for growth for out-of-home moving forwards. It is in the UK, and I have no doubt it is for you in India. So many opportunities are opening up that add to the out-of-home proposition. The only limit is our own ingenuity and our imagination. So here are some very quick examples that demonstrate the direction of travel. This is Piccadilly Lights. Those of you who've been to London will know Piccadilly Circus. It's one of the biggest tourist locations in the world. Over 2 million people come to this destination alone. I don't know why, it's just a giant poster. But this is now world class. This is a comment on where screens are moving. This screen is almost as good as the televisions you've got in your own homes. The pixelation, the quality of the color, the light, it's absolutely stunning. And brands look like never before on this giant billboard. It really is terrific. And we'll see more screens like this as technology improves. Like Times Square, it's a testament to the power and scale of out-of-home. Talking of Times Square, in New York, this is a campaign for Dell with Spider-Man. Players were encouraged to download an app and then sort of race up the side of the billboard, up the side of the sort of skyscraper to gain points and so on. This is another example from the UK, Coca-Cola, we used hyperlocal Wi-Fi for a frictionless experience with the customer to download coupons for a free bottle of Coca-Cola, driving footfall to the shops. So again, who said out of home isn't a response medium? Who says this can't trigger an action and a response? Literally tens of thousands of people responded to this. Not all those coupons were redeemed, incidentally, but the response, because it was frictionless, was so high. Connecting with out-of-home with social media is an increasingly powerful tactic as audiences spend more time on their phones. Here we see how the Snapchat codes was integrated into a campaign for this film, which you may be familiar with. This is from the US, allowing users to view the trailer and exclusive content before the film came out. And Calvin Harris and Spotify, we were the first to incorporate Spotify codes into a campaign, immediately, again, frictionlessly allowing consumers to listen to the new album by Calvin Harris. I'm assured it's very good, not my cup of tea, but very good music. I mean, you can get this straight away. So again, a direct engagement between the artist, the record company, and the consumer. Really, really, really good. And so this is how these giant tech companies you can incorporate into digital out-of-home campaigns. And My Taxi, this is one we're very proud of because this is a live data feed into the screen. There are now about 2,000 of these screens in the UK. Again, they're absolutely beautiful screens. The pixelation, the quality is very, very high. That's important for brands. But this is where we integrated data directly from the My Taxi app into a digital 6-seat campaign, showing people waiting for the bus how quickly they could be in a taxi and on their way. So I guess an aspect of utility, practical utility for the customer as well. Now this is a short film I want to show you, one of the campaigns we are most proud of, which actually demonstrates the real flexibility when you have networked sites and you have multiple media owners joining up in one campaign to create something really, really special. It's a creative execution from 2 years ago for the Euro 2016 Football Championship that takes dynamic digital creative to, I think, an entirely new level. It was, in fact, until we broke our own record, the largest dynamic, coordinated digital campaign ever seen in the UK. So can we just play the video, please, on that one? Thank you.
Euro 2016 was the biggest European tournament ever. 51 matches, 24 teams, 10 stadiums. We know a football tournament goes way beyond the average fan. It becomes an excuse to party, to skip work, to postpone the wedding. So while every brand was trying to get people's attention, the Sun brought their readers and the nation together with a campaign that made them feel like they were playing every ball, scoring every goal, and jumping into every tackle. The tournamental campaign kicked off with dynamic digital out-of-home screens that let us post Sun headlines as the action happened to nearly 800 locations in England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland separately. Agency staff sat with the Sun editorial team and used WhatsApp to share their football mad lines faster and then publish them to all locations, or specifically train stations, roadsides, or pubs via the digital out-of-home CMS. In all, we wrote over 400 totally tournamental headlines. We were there for the unexpected victories, the heartbreak, the nail-biters, the banter, the champagne moments, the unbeliever bail, and we even set the agenda. We were able to post so fast that when goals were scored, our headlines were up before the game had even kicked off again. Brands like DFS and Iceland wanted in on the action. And we even did our bit for charity. At the final whistle, the results were: print sales increased by 320,000. The Sun Euros Hub scored almost 5 million page views and over 2.5 million unique visits. It was the UK's biggest and most reactive digital out-of-home campaign ever. Fantastic.
So that was clearly for a news, but thank you. There aren't many brands that have that ability to deliver so many different sort of strap lines and copy treatments. I mean, for a newspaper that is all about football, The Sun, this was This was absolutely perfect for them, and they executed it really well. It was managed independently by our partner company, but it goes to show what you can do with the right objectives to execute on something as complicated as that, and it went off without a glitch. So this is what can be done with digital out of home. Creativity in classic formats continues to evolve. And although obviously digital is a huge area of growth, we also just wanted to shine a light on creativity in classic formats, which continues to provide impactful and innovative solutions on behalf of clients the world over. This example is from China for Jaguar, a special build, just unique and impactful in its own right. We still do quite a lot of murals, painting like graffiti on buildings where we have permission. In areas of sort of central London where you can't get planning permission to put a poster. So this is really, really effective for certain target groups. We do a lot of experiential. We created a sundial on the River Thames in London for Aperol. You cannot rely on the sun coming out in London, ever. Yet we had to get a sundial to work, and it did. You can see, look, that's not a photoshopped opportunity. That happened, thank goodness. And sometimes it's just kind of the sheer scale of what out-of-home can do. This is the famous IMAX theatre, the cinema on Waterloo Bridge in London. And I think this isn't one of ours, but I just thought I'd show it, because whether or not you like a Big Mac, when you see one that size, it's just, I think, incredible, the sort of scale that can be achieved in out-of-home. And this is where I endorse the previous speaker. It just sometimes comes down to a fantastic creative idea. What's coming up next? I was asked to talk about sort of the future, you know, I've got something to show you now, which I definitely will argue is out of home. I'm not sure whether it's not a screen, and it's not technically a projection, but I'd like to show you something. It's by a company called Lightvert, which we have exclusive relationship with, and we actually did this just before Christmas for Marriott hotels. And let me see what you think. Can you run the movie, please? Do I have to go to the next slide? Let me see what happens. Okay, yeah, sorry. Oh, can you play the movie off that? Thanks.
South Bank and we saw this tower of light. We didn't know what it was, so we read the sign and then we started shaking our phones, and then you see Paris appear in the sky, and then the next one that came over was the Colosseum, which is really cool. So with the background of the London lights, it was really awesome.
I was talking with my husband. I did something like this with the head, and I saw the Eiffel Tower, and like a stupid I started doing this, and then was the Colosseum, then was
catching people's attention when they least know it, and you did it right. And I think I would want to know more about it by just something that is really abstract.
It's really good fun, isn't it? I mean, it's something to do with persistence of vision. Don't ask me about the science, but it's like when you have fireworks and they stay in your retina after you've seen it. One day, maybe, this strip of light will be up and down buildings all over urban centers around the world. Who knows? We hope so. I guess the point I want to make is that creativity is a business driver. And too easily, I think we forget that. It has to start with really, really powerful creative ideas. And I think if we you know, if we really understand this, we can clarify that in the minds of advertisers, we will see more investment in great creative, which will only be good for our industry because we can showcase it so brilliantly, as I've tried to demonstrate. A couple of other examples here. For Wonder Woman, the film, which is Warner Brothers, our client, Binet and Field have written, two authors have written a seminal book about, it's called The Long and the Short of It, about how out-of-home works and how branding works. And they've concluded that creativity is the second biggest already, although the sample size is over 36,000, and it's a very robust, accredited standard and currency, mobile data, which I've referred to throughout this evening's presentation, is really contributing now to the evolving planning processes. By understanding through data provided by the networks themselves, the movement of audience segments across time and geography, we can more accurately and effectively flight any given campaign, maximizing exposure and minimizing any sort of wastage. Here's an example we've done using the telco data from Everything Everywhere, showing how an audience of people interested in, they're high net worth individuals interested in complex financial products. Let's see if this works. It should work on the click. Watch carefully. This is the movement of these people. You can see how early in the morning they're on their way to work, commuting into the center of London from all around the sort of commuter networks. But the point here is that by 8:30 in the morning, they're at their desks. So if you've bought all day, you've missed them. Do you know what I mean? You've got them for 2 hours. And only with digital out of home can we target those people at the right time. Now, if we have to buy 4 hours or 6 hours, we would then put new copy in, because it's pointless running that copy when no one's looking at the ads. And this is a sort of breakthrough. When you understand the movement of people, you can do this sort of thing so much more accurately, particularly to reach hard to reach smaller audiences. This is another example of a Body Shop. This is a sort of beauty cosmetics type retailer. Again, we retargeted people. And what happened is, them in the shopping mall, bespoke campaign. They didn't always go into the shop in the mall, which we thought they would. What happened was they logged it in their brains and then went to different stores 1, 2, 3 weeks later. So out-of-home's working over time. It's working, but you might not get that immediate uplift in sales. It works over time. So we got over a 37% increase over time. So it's important not to just measure that sort of one-click first thing, short-term effects. Out-of-home works over the longer term. What we're moving to is a more holistic platform capable of data-infused planning and insight, featuring extensive geolocation, behavioral, demographic-based data, live and direct access to vendor inventory. I'm going to come on to talk about automation in a minute. It varies by the vendors, and I guess it will vary a lot here as well. Optimizing the campaigns while in flight, using various insights, and then into real-time reporting. This is what clients are going to increasingly demand as we move into this digital world, as we move out of home into the digital media ecosystem. And I think we have to accelerate the path to automation. It can't come soon enough. In fact, out of home is way behind the digital media ecosystem that I described earlier in terms of automating our processes. Because the benefits, access to live access to inventory, faster planning and booking, and automatic playout report generation, the benefits are really, really clear to all and sundry. But I have to say, and I know this is stating the obvious, but sometimes it's worth stating the obvious. Digital out of home is very, very different from all other forms of digital media. And while the comparisons between online, we can make those comparisons, it's very tempting, but digital just simply isn't the same as digital out of home. There's a massive supply, an infinite supply of online inventory. It gets served up as you call up the web page. It doesn't actually have a sense of geography online. It doesn't matter where you are, it just knows it's you pulling up that website. Whereas in out of home, it's very much a finite supply. There's always, we've all rapidly moved to bidding auctions and price auctions online. I don't think we'll get there for a long time in out of home, digital out of home, except maybe certain premium placements where there's high demand. Of course, digital media is one-to-one. We can target cohorts of individuals, literally. We don't know exactly who you are, but we know it's your URL. You can never really do that in out of home. Yes, there's facial recognition. Yes, there's all sorts of interesting technology, but it'll be terribly wasteful to go for individuals as you walk past a poster or a screen. Out-of-home will always be a one-to-many medium. Attribution is high online, click-through rates and clicks and so on, and the attribution is generally seen as much lower in out-of-home. And the last point, really, I think is the most important one. Agreed technical standards. The internet had to agree technical standards very early on. The server-based technology, open direct standards for the technology. Out-of-home is still a long way away from this. But in the UK now, we and others are integrating directly with the major media owners to speed this process up. It's a very exciting time. My view would be that digital out-of-home must adopt the best of the digital world and put in the recycle bin the worst. Save, better targeting, talked about, robust KPIs, increased flexibility on the creative side, and reliable, consistent metrics. But get rid of the bad stuff about out-of-home, lack of transparency, unreliable metrics, and complex and expensive tech stacks, which are eating up the marketing dollars. We genuinely believe that it's starting to happen now, that digital out-of-home can become an integral component of a broader digital campaign. I think this was picked up on the panel about half an hour ago, and I think it's such an important point. In order to gain growth, we have to go after digital budgets. That's where clients are piling money in, and that's where the opportunity is. Align out-of-home, digital out-of-home, with the broader ecosystem of video on demand, digital radio, mobile, and desktop display. Why? Because I think digital out-of-home, when properly organized, can actually deliver on this. Over on the left of your screen, your left, my right, these are the traditional KPIs for a digital campaign. Click-through rates, cost per lead, cost per click, all of that. It's moved now over here to this side on the right, and I think this is where out-of-home can really contribute, because we can measure these things with digital out-of-home now pretty accurately. Creative execution, purchase consideration, brand impact, and all those you see, viewability and audience reach. So in my view, there's no reason why digital out-of-home can't compete with budgets in all these other digital channels. And I really believe this is where the growth will and can come from. And I think as we move forwards, I hope I've given you an insight into the fact that I think we're at a very interesting point. When you think about how this might evolve in the future, we will see a move towards what might loosely and broadly called programmatic. It's deliberate that I've not used that word today because I don't believe we're there yet. I think automation is where we're going. But it could be that as new technology comes into our market, we're going to see the market segregate into different types of campaign that depend on the technology. And I think this is a very exciting time. It's going to be a mixed ecology. Certain formats like malls or airports are going to be planned and bought in a certain way because it's almost exclusively digital. Whereas others, sort of classic roadside, billboards, larger digital screens might remain curated premium digital solutions at the top of the pyramid here. So I don't know. Obviously, I haven't got a crystal ball. But I think also when you think about when Google releases, comes back with its Google Glass Mark III, or the Internet of Things and how some of these brand new screens can be connected to your Apple Watch or whatever. This does open up new frontiers of opportunity for clients, which is clearly incredibly exciting. So, and I'm coming to my conclusion now, so I think the bar is nearly open. I think digital out-of-home can be the best of both worlds, and I think this is the sort of message we're sort of sticking to now. Taking the strengths of out-of-home that I hopefully, as I recounted earlier on, a brand-building medium that drives fame, that cuts through the clutter. Do you know, the previous speaker used the picture of a goldfish to illustrate how short our attention span. Apparently, 7 seconds is now the optimal length of a mobile video. I'm really not sure what you can communicate in a 7-second video on your mobile. I'm just not sure. But anyway, the best of out-of-home, consumer impact, and brand effects, combine that with the new brilliance of digital out-of-home, the targeting, the data, the campaign flexibility, the creative flexibility, and of course the automation and efficiency that's going to come with network screens as we move forwards. And we believe that actually digital, developing this digital will actually amplify the whole out-of-home proposition and sort of modernize it. So, our manifesto for growth sounds a bit grand, but I think if we do these things collectively, both here, in the UK, in the US, in China, I think the issues and the lessons are broadly all the same. Grasp the opportunity of digital. If you're not investing in digital, I imagine your business might well go backwards. Emphasize the fundamental strengths of the medium, because I think it's, the growth of digital is taking the money. We have to fight harder for out-of-home and its strengths. Prioritize creativity. This is the brilliant, biggest canvas for great creative ideas, and it will continue to drive results. Exploit the data opportunities presented by mobile, because they're very real and they're already here. Adapt digital media strengths to the unique digital out-of-home proposition. And finally, and this is a point that's been brought up on the panel before as well, collaborate as an industry. I understand it's a very fragmented industry here. We deal with over 200 media owners in the UK, but the top 5 or 6 account for maybe 90% of the money. So that makes dealing with the industry much more easy. We can talk about these issues collectively. So collaborate as an industry to accelerate growth. Thank you very much. Review. I stay up here? Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Stuart. I now request Mr. Pramod Bhandula, Executive Chairman, JCD Advertising India Private Limited, for a brief discussion with Mr. Taylor. Please put your hands together for Mr. Bhandula.
Let's change.
Today, every data and everything was perfect, and I think it has been understood by the audience. I'm not going to go to your particular data which you have already highlighted. It hasn't been talked so much really across, like the DOH is the second fastest growing medium which is going to be around after internet digital. And your comparison between DOH and internet digital was fantastic. I think it was very encouraging for all of us. The context which you were talking is all very high, mature market. Can you please share with the audience, like London is supposed to be the highest digital formats having, or any other city compared to?
Yeah, I think that, can you hear me all right? Does this microphone still work? Yeah. London is now increasingly digital. There's a lot of media owners who just operate in London. But I think it's the same in certain other cities like Shanghai or Tokyo. But I think the important thing is that now, as I hope I demonstrated, that digital out-of-home is now available in Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh, Bristol, Glasgow, Nottingham, all the major cities in the UK. So if you're a big national client, you can do the same campaign in all the major cities, reaching well over half the population in the country. So that critical mass is very, very important. There aren't many clients who just want to do a campaign in London. They're consumers. If you're a telecom company or a big supermarket or a car business, you want to advertise to people in the north, the south, east, and the west of the country. And finally, we have now vendors putting screens up so that we can do some of these treatments I've described all over the country. And that gives it a boost, if you like, for the revenue coming into digital.
Thanks. Stuart, see, there are two different environments and two different markets we have, like, you are talking 30-40% digitization is already happened with the conventional assets are being converted into digital. We as JCTech also, entire, go to the London streets and you find all the digital screens across. And you have been definitely working on for your clients for that. But coming back to this part of the world, where I don't think we can talk about in percentage, what conventional billboards or media assets we have, maybe 1 or 2%. Indrajit, if you have some data to share with us. less than 1% we have. So long way to go, long way. Where 30, 40% today they are talking and where we are today. We have a lot of problems. Of course, the cities are not ready. Maybe, again, I'm saying that we are not ready. But we cannot miss this trend, really. This is going to be around, as you were highlighting the progression which is going to happen. It has to be there around in India as well. So as an industry, I would like a couple of questions which can benefit my friends here. Since we all are talking transformation, conventional to digital, what are your thoughts over the role it will play once it's really transformed? Maybe not from 30, 40% to 70% it comes, and all over, major part of it is. And two questions comes out of this, what is the ROI is going to be for the media owner? Because today a media owner can have a billboard of say around $1 million Indian rupee, and if he converts that billboard into digital space, it is going to cost bomb. Maybe 10, 15 times more. The second, once it is happen and we all are in place, the brands are going to encourage to really pay for that, and will take it as an opportunity for it?
Yeah, I think you've raised a number of issues there. I think what's transformed digital and is continuing to transform digital in the UK and other sort of what you might call more mature markets is the economics of putting screens in. They've got to be regulated. They've got to go in the best possible places. As I indicated, some of those screens that I showed you, they're of very, very high quality. So brands really want to be on them and they will pay a premium because they know they're in the best locations and they know their brand is going to look beautiful. You know, if you're Hugo Boss or if you're Tiffany or you're Chanel or any desirable brand like that, or any brand, it just looks amazing. Where a lot of the traditional billboards, you've got peeling edges and so on, there's more of a risk around how your brand is portrayed. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I understand the economics of screens is coming down. The screens are becoming a lot cheaper, just as your television price is coming down. You know, I remember buying a flat screen television some years ago. It was an enormous price now, and it's probably less than a fifth of the price now. And that's what's happening with some of these screens. The actual price to purchase those screens, therefore it takes less time to pay that screen value back. And of course, with the flexibility that these screens offer, you can get several advertisers on there rather than one for every 2 weeks or a month. So you've got the opportunity to sell it multiple times. And clients, our experience shows, are prepared to pay a premium for digital screens. And I'm surprised, honestly, at the premium clients are prepared to pay. So I guess the point I'd make is, although the growth in the UK in out-of-home is only 1%, 2%, 3%, we are seeing every week more and more screens by JC&Co, by Clear Channel, by PrimeSite, by Exterior and Outdoor Plus. There's even new entrants like 8 Outdoor coming into the market. The airports are all being revamped and refurbished with screens everywhere. So I can only assume, I don't work on the media owner side, but I can only assume it makes money. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. They're very smart people. So I think the money is there if you put the screens in.
Great. Thank you very much, really. Picking one point from you, even my experience, friends, if you upgrade your media, and see, in India today, we have all. You talk about any brand, the luxury brand, everybody's here. But have we seen that those brands on our billboards? Hardly to be seen. Why? Because they are looking forward. If we have the best formats, the quality formats, definitely they are going to be there on those formats. So I think opportunities definitely there around in the country. We have to just gear up and to adapt it to the next level. And thank you very much, really, for your insight. Yes, this is the future. This is the future. Undoubtedly, it's the future. My next, I'm not going to question you. You are my client. It's not a question, but just I want to get a feel if in India this kind of digitization and DOH grows, like, you feel from an agency side of it, like agencies are going to promote it. Of course, you are an interface to your clients, and once it is implemented in a phased manners, your plans are going to get these inducted in your plans?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
My question is like, if the digitization happens
Yeah.
in India, I'm talking about India, like, if I invest a lot of money in, the industry invests a lot of capex into it, and agencies, which is playing a major role in this country, 70%,
Yeah.
the media buying is by agencies. Are agencies going to support this
Yeah.
to the industry?
Well, I honestly can't speak for the agencies in India. But we found that through some of the creative opportunities, the use of technology that I've described, and by the way, there are countless other examples I could have showed across the market for brands we don't work on. It's creating a very positive story about out of home. And you've got to have something new to say to agencies and clients. And I think all the innovation and all the new things to say, the interesting things to say, are coming out of digital out of home. So I think if you want the industry to move on, you have to develop it. And I do believe the money will be there. Yes, you have to sell it. And I'm not saying you don't, but that's why I deliberately included the 5 unarguable strengths of out of home. We are all competing with Facebook and Google and Microsoft. So we have to really go up a gear in how we're selling this amazing medium. And as I said, all the digital and creative stuff that we've been doing, that is providing a very positive story for agencies and clients, and it's helping sell the medium.
Great, thank you very much. Stuart, can we have some questions from the audience?
Sure.
If you feel like.
Do you want?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Anup Bose. I'm a senior advocate, Supreme Court of India, and a special advisor to Tata Consultancy Services Limited, which is the flagship of the Tatas and the second largest IT company in the world, which employs over 11,000 people in the United Kingdom. And as you know, they got the first overseas contract from the Home Office to set up a Bletchley Park kind of a setup in Liverpool, where 600 people work on that hush-hush project called the debarring system. You see, I need not get into details of that. My wife is an outdoor advertising company in Calcutta, and my daughter works for an advertising firm in Estonia, the leading into digital marketing and advertising, be that as it may. 2 things are important, of course, following from your speech, questions in the nature of comments, which will elicit your response. One is, IT is not a product, it's an enabler. It's an enabler, you see, in the sense, you talked about the holistic platform, you see. We are thinking in terms of e-enabled digital transformation of the OOH initiative, you see, how we take it on. Of course, you have talked about it, but you might like to elaborate on that. And the more important thing about innovative, creative, that catches my mind because you showed Piccadilly Circus. And at the turn of the last century, as you know, the sales of Bovril were dipping. Beef plus electrified fluid. And in those days, the Argentinians were capturing the British beef market, you see, on beef products. When Bovril came with an ad in that very place which you showed, Stuart, alas, my poor brother, there was an Argentinian buffalo looking at a little bottle of Bovril and saying, alas, my poor brother. And the British public said, why should we allow the poor brother to suffer? And sales soared. That is one. Another great campaign that came up in that very spot was Schweppes. When Schweppes sales were dipping, and they showed that lady with the finger on her lips saying, shh, Schweppes. So people thought there was something secretive, something mysterious about Schweppes. And Schweppes sales soared in England. I mean, this is history. And in 1895, my father's elder brother was in London and he saw. Second thing on that, 2 questions. One is on the creative aspect. You see how without diluting creativity, we can go ahead with the digitalization. E-enabled transformation. And last but not the least, you look or you bear a resemblance to my father's favorite actor, Stuart Granger, who was born in Kensington. And if you look at that particular picture very carefully, maybe your parents have thought about it long before, after you're born. I mean, they're just on the lighter side. Thank you very much. Your response to my comments and questions.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I didn't really hear a question there. But in reference to your point about Piccadilly lights, the reason I put that up is that I think is the oldest, one of the oldest and most iconic screens in the world. And Coca-Cola, our client, we've negotiated them as that screen got renewed. And I think if you look back at photographs from the 50s and the 40s and 50s and 60s, Coca-Cola was there. And I guess the larger point is that for major brands were built on out-of-home advertising. And it's that longevity that builds brands. It is too early to tell whether Facebook advertising or digital advertising is properly building brands over the long term. That's what I'd say. And I think also it's interesting that you mentioned did you mention Tata? Yes, so Tata have just taken a sponsorship of the train that runs from Heathrow Airport to the centre of London, Paddington. And I think that again is a commitment to long-term branding. I think they've been well over a year, and you see it every time you go to the airport. Yes, but it's advertising Tata overall. But that's an example of long-term branding. It doesn't have to be digital to use out-of-home effectively. Its genesis is in long-term brand building. And I think the jury is out whether some of the digital media is actually going to build brands that we've known and grown up with over the long term. And we mustn't forget that, which I hope I alluded to in my presentation as well. But thank you very much for your comments. I agree with them.
So I have a question here, rather right-hand side of left-hand side, yeah. So you said the complexity of digital is working against it, right? If I'm right, you mentioned this in your presentation. And OH is moving towards digital. Isn't that ironic? I mean, how does it kind of pan out in the long run, given the complexity that digital has?
Well, I think that, if you read the news comments around digital media at the moment, I mean, I did say this is going to continue to grow, but I think clients are questioning why they are putting so much money into certain forms of digital media. I think that tech tax, the sort of complex tech stack is absorbing so much of the budget. How much of it is actually being used to build brands, generate a response or an engagement with the consumer? So I think those questions are going around in clients' minds now. I absolutely think digital will continue to grow. Why? Because we are all spending more time in front of screens. So advertisers tend to go where the eyeballs go. So I think there's a logic there. All I was trying to say was, if out-of-home doesn't become digital and play in that game, play in that space, I don't think we're going to grow. So I think we've got to adopt the very best of digital media, but get rid of the worst. I hope that was so clear from my final slides, that there's some very good aspects of digital, better targeting, better use of data to inform campaigns and to make them more effective and accountable. But let's not absorb all that client budget and waste it on complex technology that's not transparent and is opaque and confusing. That's really what I meant. So I think we've got to be digital as an industry. I don't think there's another way.
Thank you. Sorry, we are running out of time. We can do it offline. Mr. Taylor is here. You can meet. You can do this offline also. Okay, one last question. I think I was getting someone here, right? Last question.
Quick one, Stuart. The My Taxi campaign that you shared, so that involved integration of APIs, I'm assuming, with the digital displays.
Yes.
So we're doing something similar with Amazon here, where we integrate with the APIs to show deal of the day on a real-time basis on the screens. Brilliant. How adaptive are clients to that? I mean, are you seeing a lot of that in UK?
No, it's a really good question, because we think all this is so possible and we're doing it, so are others. But it's a tiny percentage. We reckon probably 3 or 4% of client campaigns are doing anything remotely digital or dynamic, I should say. Whether it's using data, different copy at different times, adapting to context, one ad on the commute into work, another ad on the way back, because we know You know, when you're going to work, you're focused on your to-do list and your meetings. When you're coming back from work, you're thinking, where am I going to go on holiday this year? What new car shall I buy? Your mindset is very open. And so if you're playing the same copy, that's not really right. You should play different copy going home than going to work. So it's things like that. And we're surprised that more clients aren't. You know, we're trying to sell this every day, but, you know, it does cost more money, so it does take some budget, true. But when you do a really effective campaign and the client goes, wow, that's amazing, you know, you can really see the difference, it becomes worthwhile. You just have to, we have to try and, you know, we do have to just convince clients that these technical solutions are possible. They can be operated at scale up and down the country or within specific environments, and they really do drive engagement, response, effectiveness, ROI. So yeah, we'd love more campaigns like that. We really would.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Taylor and Mr. Bhandula.
Thank you very much.
I would request you to please stay back on stage as I invite Mr. Inderjeet Sen, CEO, Indian Outdoor Advertising Association, to give away the much needed token of appreciation. Let's please give a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, gentlemen.